Welcome to House Rules,
House rules.
a Heroes and Hooligans talk show.
A Heroes
We
and
are
Hooligans talk
so
show.
pleased to have you with us. Heyo, Hooli.
Heyo, Jason.
How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm so good.
You are so good.
This is a talk show. Each week, we are going to have a different guest. We're going to talk about, you know, all of the things that make them talented and interesting in the world of Dungeons and Dragons, or really in the world of art in general. And today, our first ever guest, very special, Shanae Rutherford.
Hi,
Heyo!
hi, heyo. I'm
Shanae
I'm really
is
excited to be here.
good. We're excited to have you. Thank you for coming. Shanae is an American actor, professional dungeon master, a very talented voice in the world of Heroes and Hooligans, and in the world of tabletop role playing games in general. Shanae has voiced many memorable characters in the Heroes and Hooligans universe, but perhaps best known as Mads on
Probably,
Tuesday
yeah.
nights, Echoes of Zeppelin, airing Tuesday nights here on our Twitch channel, on our YouTube, and on our Twitter. So, Shanae, welcome to House Rules.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
All right,
Glad
you're our
to have
first
you,
guest.
buddy.
But before we start, I just want to turn it over to Hooli. I want to talk about right up front. I want to get it right up front. We are working on a project. We're really excited. Hooli, why don't you tell us about the Trevor Project?
Yeah, so Heroes and Hooligans has partnered with some of our friends in the TTRPG community, and we have come together with a project called Rolling for Charity, and we are fundraising currently for the Trevor Project. So from now until the end of June, we are raising finances to go towards the Trevor Project. If you're unfamiliar with the Trevor Project is an organization that specializes in suicide prevention and counseling services for at-risk transgender and non-binary youth. With the world being the way that it is, the current legislature across several different parts of the country, we really just want to band together with our friends in the community and reach out and put ourselves into helping the world become a better place and a safer place for our youth. It is a charity that we believe in. We are an inclusive community. We have people in our community who are themselves transgender. I am the parent of a transgender child. So it is something that's very near and dear to our hearts, that project alone, let alone we are an inclusive space. Like, we're allies and we want to remain allies in the community. And so this is our way of doing what we can to help, even, being spread out all across the world, because we have people involved in our project from Europe. We have people involved in our project from South America. We have people here in the United States. Like, we're coming together collectively to raise money and even play games. We're hosting 2 games, June 18th and June 11th. There are 2 games going to be played. I will be DMing one. Jason will be DMing the other. And we're currently at our goal of we have a goal set of $500. That's our first goal. We're at $141 out of our $500 goal, and our campaign launch isn't even technically until May 1st. So super excited about that. That's it. That's Rolling for Charity and the Trevor Project.
Yeah, it's awesome. I'm really excited about it. We're going to, so just to tag on to that, we are going to do 2 one-shots that are special and customized for our donation folks. So if you donate, you'll have the opportunity to join a party, have a one-shot, and we're going to really spend a lot of time and do some preparation, really make it tailored and customized to that party. So get your donations in, click the link on the website. I'm sure we'll have a link for everyone. and get the donations in, and we will put together 2 really cool experiences for you. I'll say let's lead into, because I think one of the things I mentioned the other day was that one shot is going to be a little bit longer than our typical online D&D session. So here's in Hooligans, we tend to do about a 90-minute to 2-hour session for each of our campaigns per week. For the one shots, I think we're going to do much longer, more like tabletop style, 4 to 6 hours, something like that. It might go longer. If it's fun, we'll keep going. It's hard to predict sometimes when you do a one shot how long it will take, but we're going to take the time to do it in a meaningful way to make it a true adventure, not just a single session. So, Shanae,
Yes.
talk to me about the pros and cons of a 90-minute session online versus that around the table long session of 4 to 6, 8, 10, even marathon sessions that are longer.
So just to kind of set a precedent of what it is that I do a lot of blended DMing. So I do a mix of, I have some campaigns that are in person. I have some campaigns that are strictly online. My ones that are strictly online generally go about 90 minutes, and they are shockingly well-rounded, given that the work that I do online is specifically for kids ages 8 to 15. You would think that being confined to 90 minutes really limits your options when it comes to DMing for kids. It really doesn't, because you see their decision-making process happen so quickly. It gets a little bit more muddled when you start DMing for teenagers and adults, because then the second guessing comes in. And it turns into a lot of differences of opinion and trying to figure out what direction is the right direction to go. Should something devolve into combat? Is there another way around it? And it leads to, when you're that pressed for time, it takes time away from the overall story that you're trying to tell, both yourself as a DM and then collectively as a group. But at the end of the day, it is all about the overall experience that your players have, and in the case of Heroes and Hooligans, the audience and what they experience as they go through this journey with us, because we are as blind to the story that we are telling as the audience is. Hooli has done an incredible job of maintaining that level of mystery. And so 90-minute sessions are a little bit short for my personal taste. But that's because when I first started playing D&D, I started when I was 19 years old. I was in college. Sorry, I was 18. I was not 19 quite yet. And it was our way of kind of getting through the day, because we were in a dorm that was relatively well known for rowdy parties, and we wanted none of that. We were the math nerds and we just are going to hunker down in a study room and go watch anime kind of people. And then I got approached saying, do you want to play Dungeons and Dragons? And I went, you know what? Fuck it. Why not? And it turned into, we would have sessions that were 10 hours long. We would be in this study room all night and we would play different campaigns. And that kind of bled into my in-person belief, which is that if you're sitting at a table and you have a group of people that are actively committed to playing, you need to give it its due diligence. And you need to make sure that you are investing the time in the session they're wanting to give. So, for example, I have my main session that I have DM'd with some of the most important people in my life. My boyfriend is there. My work wife is there. Joe, who plays Cece in Echoes of Zeppelin, plays at my table in person.
Hold on. I'm gonna pause you right there. Let's see an example of Shanae and Joe and some of their voice talent.
If you so much as try to turn me into a cabbage again, I swear, Rabbit, I will have your head on a pike.
Well, it's not my fault that you continue to come into my garden.
I'm hungry.
Then eat somewhere else.
There is nowhere else, Rabbit.
There's everywhere else. You just chose mine.
Ugh.
So
Yeah, it's
you guys have a flow. You
it's-
have a rhythm.
we have a rhythm because we've had a lot of time invested in it. And as we go through everything, I have had one player in particular kind of filter in and out of the campaign, not because it was a lack of want to play, but because he had an amazing job opportunity that took him away from Manhattan, Kansas, and it put him in Utica, New York. And so he spent a year out there, and he ended up moving back to Columbia, Missouri. And as soon as he found out he was moving, he called me and he goes, "What do I need to do to be at your table again?" I tried DMs in Utica. They weren't you. You're the only DM I've known. You're the only DM I want. And so my main campaign, we play monthly. And this player that moved back across the country for a new job opportunity drives 4 hours one way just to play at my table. So when we have those sessions like that, we play for 6 hours.
Yep.
Because first off, I'm not letting you drive 4 hours for a 3-hour session. That's not fair to you. That's not fair for the story that we're trying to tell. But at my table, with all of these people that are so important to my life, the in-person sessions are the most critical part of everything. When COVID hit, we discussed the option of doing online sessions, and immediately we all were like, absolutely not. We need to be in person. And so it's the most chaotic setting in the best way, because so much that can happen at the same time. And that is a luxury that you don't necessarily get when you are running a session online. Players can't talk over each other. Players can't have two things going at the exact same time. I can be talking as a DM and as an NPC to one of my players, and across the table, two players that are connected are going to kind of go into a corner and they're going to foster their conversation. Thankfully, I'm also blessed with players that respect the story more than anything. So at the end of the conversation, they always shoot me a private message. They shoot me a text going, "This is what we just talked about," just so that you're in the know. But we play for 6 hours dedicatedly. And it's really amazing because you get to foster this human element that I personally believe is really important in campaigns. They view all of their characters as people. They all have very deep and profound arcs, some longer running than others. So some are a little bit more of a long con, some have just seen themselves come to fruition, and they all love it. They love the story, they love their characters, they love the NPCs, and sitting down for a 6-hour session is really giving the adventure its due diligence, and I think that's really important.
Yeah, I think on the flip side of that, what the online and the shorter sessions have opened up is, one, you can draw players. So none of us are local to each other. So we now have access to talent that's all over the place, and we're not geographically limited. So if I were to play locally, and I did for many, many years, and I still have friends that play around a table, I'm limited to the personalities and the play styles that I have around me. Online opens up so many different communities that you can really find your people in a way. The other thing that I think is a benefit, because I think you've stated all of the benefits around the table perfectly. I agree with everything you said. Online, I think the benefit of online is audience interaction. I can watch the audience react to things we're doing, and that to me really makes it fun, and it inspires things, to me, it's got that sort of Greek chorus sort of aspect where I can see who people don't like, who they do like, and it's an outside perspective that is, to me, has really added a ton to a game that I've played for many years. It's a completely new perspective. So I think both are really awesome.
I think it's also interesting to note that our experiences of online gaming in terms of TTRPGs are very different, because you said you're used to speaking for an audience and playing for an audience. And before I was on Heroes and Hooligans, that wasn't something that was in my conscious radar. It very much is now, and has melded beautifully into my aspirations as I do pursue D&D as a career. But when I do sessions online, it's not about the audience, it's about the players.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, I
it's
find
about
it
their
to be,
experience.
yeah, I find it to be both. So having my background really is in a couple of different things that I think this feeds. Both team sports, and I think that's where the player-oriented, being the party and really solving a challenge together. But then also being in a band where you are, you're intimately connected to your bandmates while you're playing a song. However, practicing together gives you that, but playing in front of an audience completely gives you a different energy, and it is like a validation of choices you've made in rehearsal. And there's nothing like live performance. So I really enjoy the live performance aspect of what we do.
I also love the double entendre of the metaphor that you chose to go with. That was not lost on me there.
Well, it was probably lost on me.
Oh, no, you're talking about a band, Jason?
Oh.
What kind of a reference would I even be making?
Yeah, you guys are playing in a band together on Tuesday.
I think,
right, like...
Yeah, but honestly, I think that's great. I haven't seen it done before. As much as we might joke about an all-bar party, the parallels for me are real, and I also haven't seen it done. I look around online, I look around at the different communities that are out there, and I truly believe what Hooli is doing with Heroes and Hooligans is some pretty innovative stuff. So,
yeah,
I really do think it's innovative. Hooli, what are your thoughts on this topic?
Yeah.
So, in-person D&D makes me anxious. I've said that so many times. Like, my D&D career has a majority of it been online. I've DM'd one in-person session that wasn't for my husband and kids. I love the online D&D aspect. I like to have the theatrics in the online D&D. I think it's really good for players, and I think it's really good for the audience. I am very audience conscious as well, and that just comes also from being like aware of my surroundings. So when it comes to online D&D, there are so many freaking things that you can do at the table that I can't do sitting at a table in front of people. Like, I feel like there's a big pressure on DMs who sit around a table to spend ungodly amounts of money on miniatures and scene settings and, physical books and things like that, where online I can buy a map making program for a whole year that cost me what 2 minis is going to cost me one time for a session that I'm never going to use it again because they've run into 1 or 2 jelly blobs in the whole campaign, right? So I think it's as a financial aspect as a DM, I think it's lighter on the pockets with the online, but it also gives you videos, maps that you spend time making, character art. It gives you an opportunity to integrate other people. I'm really, really big on guest stars. You guys both play at my tables. You both know this. You can't do that at a regular table. You could have somebody come in. Yeah, you could have somebody come in and guest star at your table, of course, and play some NPCs, but like
But
people
it's
are going to
different.
see somebody walking into a room and they're going to anticipate that and know something's coming. It's so different online. It's so different. And I think online D&D is really the way forward as far as like you said, innovation. Right?
I agree with you, and also there's a hybrid model, which really before StreamYard and these tools existed. I ran a campaign in 2016 before any of this stuff was available, where I had a laptop and I plugged that laptop HDMI cable into a big screen TV that was behind me, and basically I do the same thing I do when I DM here, the same thing you do, Hooli. I had a Bluetooth speaker, and I had a big screen TV behind me. It's still in Rob's shed. We would all sit around a table, and the screen was behind me. And so when this became available to me, it was like perfect. Now I can just do all of this virtually. So there is still the option. So don't say no to it completely, because you can still do this if you have a laptop, an HDMI cable, and a TV. You can pretty much still have your pre-prepared content. You can have your digital map, and you can have your D&D Beyond all on a Chromebook or something. I used the Chromebook back then, and you can have both. I think the other thing with a mature party, there's pros and cons around a table, is you have a lot of dynamics, body language that we lose. We don't have the body language. We don't see the cues, right? Shanae and I, we struggle, I think, on Tuesday because we're all performers, and we don't have the body language cues to know when it's someone else's turn.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, you have that around a table, but the downside is you get people out of character more often around a table, and you have more crosstalk, and you can have people talking about work or completely non-campaign related things. So we can't really do that when we're live. Like right now, we can't have a side conversation. Right? The three of us are locked into this moment, and I think that the nature of the online stuff sort of does lock us pretty well in the moment. So I like them both. I think they both have pros and cons. But let's move on to the next topic.
I think if I was going to be asked if I would do in person or online, I'm at a point it would genuinely be a toss up. Yeah. And I think that's because my in-person group, we are all absolute best friends, and our group chat is bumping all the time. So when it hits time for session, I wish I was making this up. The amount of the 6 of those people that show up in full costume. If I had a nickel for every time Joe showed up in a corset, I would have 2 nickels at least.
All right, let's go to the next topic. Hooli, do you want to ask our guest about?
So, if you had a choice between 2 superpowers, invisibility and flying, which would you choose?
I would choose flying.
Why?
Correct answer.
I believe that choosing flying, if you're just invisible, it gives you access to the exact same scope of the world. You're just not seen. But if you choose flying, you get to add a third axis in the way that you perceive the world. You get to hover above it. You get to fly around it. You get to weave in between buildings. And that's not an experience that you are generally able to have if you were just walking through the world invisible. Of, okay, great, I could maybe hear what people say about me when I'm not in a room. That's the anxiety-driven part of me. But there is no small part of me that is actively driven by wonder and curiosity, and being able to look at the world from a perspective that I never deemed possible through flight, and just being able to go zip between buildings and maybe look at something in a little bit different of an angle. It trumps invisibility in my mind, no hesitation.
I think invisibility is more powerful, but you would have no problems in life if you could just fly. Like, what could possibly ever be that bad in life if you could just fly anytime you felt like it? Only you disagree. Go ahead.
I do. Just I mean, I think it would be cool to fly. I can vibe that, right? Like I can vibe wanting to see the world from a different angle. I could agree with that, and being able to go and do whatever you want without paying obnoxious gas prices, I think is a fantastic idea. Like I think that's the greatest benefit of flying. But I would pick invisibility. And it doesn't have anything to do with not wanting to be seen. It just has to do with peace. Because if you can't see me, you can't bother me. So if I want to go and, pray to the spaghetti monster in the sky while I smoke in the middle of the woods, that's my business, and I can do that. And you can't watch me do it. So if I want to be a druid running butt booty naked through the woods, I can do that because I'm invisible and you don't know that. Like, it just gives me this whole new freedom and peace to myself because you can't see me. I'm like John Cena. You can't see me. Like, that's how it is.
I'm not surprised Kayla picked invisibility. Kayla,
Yeah.
very, very practical. It is the practical choice by far.
Kayla has recently shared with me a picture of her when she was a child, and that woman has been having a panic attack since she was born. I am not surprised that she picked invisibility.
This is fine.
Oh, we love Kayla.
The best.
We do.
The best. My favorite. One of my favorite people on the planet.
Theme Park Stitch is Cappy, who plays.
Oh, okay. Flight all the way. See, that's why we get along so well.
It's either Cappy or it's M. It's one of the two, but I'm pretty sure it's Cappy.
Love it. All right.
I'm actually almost positive it's our friendly neighborhood himbo.
Hey,
it's somebody. It's somebody.
Okay. Let's do. Do you want a light one or a heavy one?
Bring it on me. I'm anything if not adaptable. Is that not the job of a DM?
Heavy? Light or dark? What do you want?
I guess if given the ultimatum of choosing between light and shadow, I personally will go with light.
Okay. What is the coolest monster in the monster manual?
So, funny thing about that.
Okay.
I've never actually sat down and read the monster manual. I've also never sat down and read the DMG.
Well, that's all we have for you tonight, folks.
Oh yeah. No, it's more along the lines of I don't sit down and think about the options of the monsters. I prefer to approach things a little bit more inversely. And so I like to think about the situation that I want to tell, the things that I want the story to convey, and then go and look for monsters based on that. So I kind of do it a little bit more backwards instead of like, oh, cool, I have the monster manual, but I've never just sat down and looked through the options for everything. I just go off of what feels natural for me in building the story. Based on what I know is in the monster manual, there's something about the Tarrasque that's just stupid, and I love him. But me as a DM, I don't have anything that I naturally gravitate to. Okay. I let the moment decide, and I flip through the monster manual after that decision is made.
Love it. All right, now to the shadow. This could be light. Depends.
No, it's okay. There's something beautifully dichotomous about like light and shadow.
Yeah, I agree. So I think I mentioned earlier to you, I'm a big believer that the person that we are at age 12 is our essential self before the stresses of life hit us from every direction. Who were you at age 12? And how much time do you spend investing on getting back to that essential person?
That is a heavy question, not because of the first part, but because of the second part.
Yep.
Let me take a drink of water. You're about to
All right.
pop off.
Take your time.
The person that I was when I was 12. When I was 12, I just moved to a different town than the one that I had absolutely grown up in. And the adjustment to going from Castle Rock, Colorado, which is the very, very bottom part of the Denver metro, to Elizabeth, Colorado, which as of 2019 has a population of 1,566 people. That alone was a culture shock. It came with a lot of bullying because in a town that small, there's not a lot of new people that move and go join an 8th grade class. And so a lot of the person that I was when I was 12, the person that I used to be was this person that would go outside and just run around and like play sports and read and just sing like fucking no one was listening. When in the actuality of it, our house was in a ravine and in fact echoed. And when bullying got too hard and life and reality got too overwhelming, Shanae at 12 years old just started daydreaming and dipping into fantasy. And it's not a matter of who I was when I was 12, dipping into fantasy as a form of, I don't want to say escapism. I feel like freedom is a little bit better fitting of a word.
Okay.
That was cemented in me as a person since I was about 3 years old. And so that's not anything that was cemented when I was 12. It's always been there as long as I can remember. And going in and delving into fantasy made reality a lot less hard and a lot less overwhelming because I understood that there was a separation between fantasy and reality. And fantasy, in the way and the form that it existed when I was 12, there was no consequence because I made the consequences. It didn't matter what I did because in any scenario that I created, I was always the hero. I was never the victim. And that was so starkly contrasting to my reality when I was heavily bullied, when I hit a point that I didn't necessarily feel comfortable going outside because this boy that lived down the street from me heard me, knew I lived there, and was talking with one of his friends about how he was going to show up at my house and paintball our windows. So the fantastical side of me that's always existed became a little bit less external as reality kind of sunk in, and it sunk in at the age of 12. For the second part of your question of what I would give to go back to that person.
Yeah.
If I am being perfectly honest.
Well, no, it's not to go back to that person, but to get back to your essential self.
Get back to the essential self, it's been a long road, but I feel like I'm closer now than I've ever been. And it was not easy because all of this, the person that I was at 12, when I wasn't looking to fantasy, I was looking for the next step. I was looking 5 years in the future. Of middle school doesn't matter because everything changes when you're in high school. High school doesn't matter because everything changes when you're in college. Undergraduate, hey, we are trying to get into graduate school. So everything you do in college is going to be in pursuit of that master's program.
Right.
Then I went through my master's program, meticulously planning all of my classes so that I could be in the PhD program. My original plan in life was I was going to have my master's at 23, my PhD at 27, and be tenure track at a research-centric university at 32. And you can imagine when that all fell apart, by my own choice, by my own hand, it left me realizing that I spent so much of my life in pursuit of what comes next. I sat down and found myself terrified of the question, what happens now?
Yeah.
And go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think you're hitting exactly on the question, which is it's so easy for us to lose ourselves in pursuit of some idea of a future that may not really be ours. And I think it's really important as early as possible in life we remember who we really are, and we make sure that what we do is investing to maintain and celebrate the essential version of us. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember as I was going through graduate school, because I'm 26 now. When I graduated college,
you're washed.
I
You're
was
so washed. It's over for you.
I know, right?
Yeah.
When I graduated with my bachelor's degree, I was 20. I turned 21, and then 3 weeks later started graduate school.
Yeah. Too
And I grew up. I never felt confidence in myself physically, or like, I'm fully aware that my personal stat block, I am all intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. I am aware that is where my strength is.
Yeah. Okay.
So everything physically, my constitution, my dexterity, my strength, I knew I fucking sucked at it, but I knew I was smart. And I went through my entire life in the gifted and talented program. I was taking a lot of math classes. I was in Future Business Leaders of America, Phi Beta Lambda, for 5 years through high school and 2 of my 3 years of college. And so I went through my entire life being told and convincing myself that mentally, because I'm fucking smart, I'm the cream of the crop. And all of a sudden, here I am, 21 years old, surrounded by people who are the cream of the crop. And it bred that imposter syndrome. I have a point to this, I promise. And so over time, when I was going into graduate school, I found myself falling out of love with academia. Out of, I'm fucking smart. I know I'm fucking smart. I fucking hate school right now. I hate being here. I hate driving 20 minutes to my college campus and feeling like I'm putting on a second skin and having to embrace somebody that I never wanted to become. And I watched myself fall out of love with the thing that I had always thought 5 years ahead for. I had fought to be there, and I was losing it. And I sat down with my major professor one day, and I told him, I think I want to take a year leave of absence. At this point, I had already been accepted into the PhD program. I just needed to finish my thesis. I had all of my required coursework. And I sat down, I'm like, I can't. And he looked at me and he goes, power through it. You can do this. And I said, if I do that, I'm going to look at a piece of paper on the wall and I'm going to hate what I had to put myself through to do it. And I decided I'm going to take a year leave of absence, go get a job, go get a real job, and find good experience and realize why I fell in love with academia in the first place. Yeah. And all of that went to hell because I did one thing. And this is where I return to your point. I sat down and I read. And read for fun. I read fantasy. For the first time in 2 years, I read fantasy. When up until then, I was going to graduate school for a degree in sociology with an emphasis in criminology and methods of social analysis with a specific specialization in media. And so for that span of 2 years, I was reading 1,500 pages of academic material a week. I read 3,000 pages of Karl Marx's original work. And the only change that was made was it was translated from German to English. And believe it or not, the Germans are wordy bastards. And I finally took one day. I sat down when I was grappling with, do I listen to my major professor? Do I just stuff it out? Piece of paper, I've worked for it, I deserve it. To, I want one day that I just have fantasy again. Because I had D&D, but it wasn't the same. It felt like it was pulling time away from things I could have done other things, and I could have maybe tackled academia a little bit better. I read for fun for one day instead. And I cannot begin to tell you how hard I cried that day. Because for the first time in years, I felt like me again. And I felt like there was some part of the core of my existence, which is fantasy, that came back, and I didn't want to let it go. And so I buckled down. I ghosted my major professor, and I took a year leave of absence. And then 2 weeks into my job that I'm currently working, that will eventually kind of cycle out as D&D becomes my full-time job, 2 weeks into that job, I realized I wasn't going to go back. And it led to me growing and feeling more comfortable with myself and my authenticity as a person. And I drove to the place I spent the majority of my time and felt to some capacity myself, and not a crude simulacrum of who I could be.
That's interesting.
And then about a year ago, I got passed over for promotion at my job. And there came that question again that I fucking hated, is what happens now? And I went over to Christina's house that day that I found out I didn't get the promotion. And Joe asked me that question, what happens now? And I looked at her, I said, tonight you let me be fucking sad. For one night, you let me feel sorry for myself. I worked for this, worked hard for this. I got passed over. Tomorrow, ironically, that's tomorrow's problem. And the next day, my manager called me in because it broke her heart to tell me that I didn't get it. I could see it on her face. She pulled me in, that same goddamn question. What's the plan? What happens now? And I looked at her and I said, this was March of last year. I told her the plan is no plan. I have a lot of complex emotions right now, and I know what's bringing me happiness, and it's fantasy. It's D&D. I want to process my emotions of what just happened through D&D. And then a month later, things started. And now I'm here, a year later, getting paid to do what I love, getting thrown opportunities like this that I never would have expected. And it's been a long road. And I'm aware that I'm fully about to kick the bucket, Jason, at my ripe old age of 26.
Yeah, you're washed. It's a shame, but
it's been a journey, and I feel like myself now significantly more than I ever did when I was this sad, bullied, insecure preteen. And I will take that really, any day.
Yeah, I think that's really powerful. I think there's a lot of people that can relate to that story. Thank you for sharing that story.
Oh, of course.
Hooli, what's you want to ask the last question? You're on mute.
You're muted, Holes.
That's not going to translate to audio.
oh yeah, okay. So
Vogue. Hooli was voguing on mute.
Yeah, I was practicing my miming skills for my next step in my career.
I forgot how young you are. You don't know what voguing is. Okay.
Yeah, I do know what voguing is. First of all,
we watched America's Next Top Model. It's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, so I want to kick it back to D&D a little bit and talk to you about what is your favorite house rule as a DM? Like, what is something that you do at your tables that you find to be like your favorite thing, or something funny, or something a mix of the both? If you have something that's a mix of the both.
I have two.
Okay.
One is a serious one, and then one is just it started as a bit and turned into a house rule. So I think my practically favorite one, we call it Bass Backwards. Even though my druid is insistent that it is called Bass Backwards, that's just because she is eccentric at her worst. And so I have them right here. They're the only minis that I use in my entire game. And they are these little pack mules. There are days that the dice are incredibly forgiving to players. I don't know what god they piss off during their daylight. They look down and go, fuck that guy, it's just natural one after natural one. And I saw it really start getting into the head of my players. So when I play in person, I have about 4 or 5 of these that are specifically given when they roll a natural one. The donkey is just a personal reference to the campaign. But whenever they crit fail, they get a Chauncey, which is the donkey's name. And for the rest of the session, they have it's basically like it's an off-brand inspiration that they can hand me one of the ones that they've earned, or they can cash it in for another player, and it counts as a +2 to their roll. So maybe they've been rolling a bunch of natural ones. They have just had an absolute gauntlet of it, and they are 2 away from succeeding. They finally got a decent roll. They finally rolled an 11, and the DC was a 13. That's where this comes in. They can stack, but they do not transfer between sessions. So it is there to allow you to fail forwards and potentially help you as you go in and try to make a legend of yourself as you play this make-believe fantasy game. My funny one is called the Common Sense Point. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this.
Nope.
The Common Sense Point is when a player is about to do something detrimentally stupid.
Okay.
It's when you step in as the DM and go, all right, dumbass, let's not. One specific example is Halloween of 2020. We had a fun little like homebrew horror campaign, and there was a trap that was around this key that would unlock everything in the dungeon that they were in. It was obviously incredibly hard to get into. It was a DC 30 sleight of hand to be able to get through this alarm spell and the class that it was coded in. But there was a spike trap that they had accidentally set off. And our rogue, please note that I said our rogue, sat there for a solid 5 minutes going, okay, I have a spear. So if I can throw it at the right angle, maybe I can get it to wedge in between the bricks. And so then what I can do, once I have it good and wedged, is I'm going to go around the trap, and then I'm going to jump up with the spear, and then I'm going to get to this. And I'm like, all right, we're going to fucking talk. You're a rogue. Just go disable the trap, dumbass. Like, stop. And that's what kind of bled into Common Sense Point of, like, if you are about to do something of, like, I'll let you do stupid things, but that was a level of stupid that very much could have gotten that player killed. And I always actively tell my players, it is never in my conscious forethought to try to kill you. If the dice have another story they want to tell, that's on the dice. But if you're going to sit here and make this detrimentally stupid decision, I will step in and be like, hey, bud, hey, come on, it's okay. We're gonna not do that. and we're gonna go do another thing. And normally when I give advice like that of like, hey, remember you're a rogue and traps are kind of a thing that you can negate. I normally accompany it with a wisdom check just to kind of make it a little bit of a more below board kind of thing. But it's super helpful because it shows the trust. It reinforces the trust in the DM. Because it's me sitting here going, all right, hang on. We both know there's a better idea than what you have. And while I respect the fact that they will absolutely come up with a cockamamie scheme on the fly, I don't want them to lose these characters that they've played for 2.5, almost 3 years. I want them to be able to continue telling the story and not die over something so dumb.
Yeah,
like if you're gonna die, go out in a blaze of glory.
Yep. I think players can often, that haven't been DMs, I think they underestimate how protective a DM is of their party. I think they think that the DM, because they have to represent the monsters in combat, I think they believe it's an adversarial relationship, and really it's not. It's that I promise everyone, almost every DM is rooting for the success of the party. I haven't met very many that weren't. And sometimes we'll joke about, let's test them. Let's really test them. Let's see what they can do. This is going to be really tough. There's TPK potential tonight. But I think at the heart of it, we're all rooting for the success of our parties. All of us, I probably spent 10 too many sessions trying to get a party to level 20. Hooli knows this to be true.
Yeah.
I probably went 10 weeks beyond to the point where I felt like I was dragging the party to the finish line. And it's because I wanted them to feel that, like, that finish line. I wanted them to feel that. And it's, we do. I think we feel responsible, and we feel that we want the team to succeed.
Absolutely.
Really do.
I think
absolutely, yes.
I think if I can get a piggyback off that, if that's mentioned that players perceive us as the monsters, and I think that at times that's true, and it's why it's so important to remind them that we're so much more than that. We're also every NPC that she's like to fight on their side. And I know that me personally as a DM, those PCs are important. I fully flesh them out. They are people. And what's that?
Speaking of a ghost.
Yeah, that's Joe's husband. Or
there it is.
There's
There's
not the
CC.
players off of the wall.
Yeah.
But I take so much time to flesh out my NPCs, make them people, give them an actual spot in the world. And my players absolutely fall in love with them, both online and in person, because you are, at DM, their greatest adversary and their greatest ally. And being able to walk that line of being able to bolster so much courage in them, but also strike the fear of God into their fucking hearts. It's everything. And managing that balance is really interesting.
I think that's what Hooli does is so smart with having guest stars, because the guest stars can disassociate the DM with the challenges and the adversaries. So I think it's super smart way to solve exactly that. So I don't think anyone in Hooli's campaigns view her as the problem to be solved or the adversary. And I think the guest stars are a big reason for that. We are almost out of time. So Shanae, what do you want to plug?
So what I have doing is I will plug a little bit of tease. I have found a partner in writing within the Heroes and Hooligans community. I will keep them fully anonymous at this time, but we've been working on a lot of projects and scenes, and there's a lot of really, really cool stuff working and kind of in the mix of everything. And I'm so grateful for the opportunity that Hooli gave me, where we are. Oh, am I choppy? Is that better at all?
It's coming in and out.
Okay. Okay. But I found a writing partner amidst the Heroes and Hooligans community. I'm keeping it kind of in my pocket and nameless for now, but we've been writing a lot, and we have discovered that our writing is very effortless together, and I'm very excited to see where it all goes. And it's leading to a lot of really amazing projects. And when we do decide to simultaneously step forward, I think that you guys will be very excited to see what we've been cooking. And I think I'm gonna strong arm the decision, and they'll thank me later. If you want to have us both back here together, I think there would be an amazing conversation to be had there.
Sounds good. Hooli, what do you got to plug?
Other than the Trevor Project,
Yes.
which is our super big kind of rolling together project we have going on right now. We have a campaign that's upcoming that's new. Our fantastic artist Olga is going to be DMing that campaign. It will be playing on Fridays. It is called The Gauntlet. She is looking for 4 or 5 players to do this. The reason she has named it The Gauntlet is she plans on having characters start at level 3, and your class changes after every dungeon completion, but you get to take something from each class with you. So I think she's starting with barbarians and going to, transfer from there to there. So you'll get to take something from that. So that's the current upcoming plug project I think that I could throw there, other than Trevor Project, which is really, really our biggest. And our website is 2 days from finished for launch also.
Oh my God.
And I'm excited about it because we've been working on it for a really long
I didn't know
time.
that, actually. I
Yeah.
actually didn't know that.
Yeah. And we have our Patreon too. I'll shamelessly plug our Patreon, which directly funds our ability to have things like StreamYard and our website and the Rolling Together project and things of the sort. All of those links are in our link tree, which I will give you in the comments. You can find us on just about every single social media platform that there is to exist. And then some that don't even exist yet, you could probably find us there too, because we're thinking in the future here at Heroes and Hooligans. So that's all I got, Jason. What about you? You got anything good?
I just want to thank all of the folks who have been. I've been watching our live viewers. We've had, this is episode 1 on a Thursday night. We don't normally do this. We had steady. I think our lowest was 9 live. We've had a ton of great comments. I love the comments. I said it before earlier about viewer interaction. To me, it's such a great element to add to this. We've had people. I'm seeing you've all stuck with us for an hour for episode 1. So we're gonna do this more often. We're gonna highlight a ton of the talented artists and professionals that we've got at Heroes and Hooligans. But we're also, I want you to share this. If you're listening, please share it with your friends, because I want to start getting some guests outside of our community.
Absolutely.
Join our Discord. It's a great community. We have a ton of different fun in many different areas. You can follow along sort of behind the scenes with all of the amazing art that's being created and all of the great out of session sort of dynamics that happen and all the jokes that are told that, you know, go way beyond the 2 hours per week per session. So I just want to thank everyone that has hung out with us week after week. I want to say, Momi, I look forward to your comments every week. So I see you here, and you're just you're a ray of sunshine for me every week when I see you in our comments, and knowing that you're there watching us is awesome. So thank you specifically. So with that, I think we're gonna put a wrap on the first episode of House Rules.
House
Yeah,
rules.
You guys did the damn thing.
Hello.